Welcome back everyone to part 19 of this series, and in this part you will learn how to create this melee combat system for the player that you can block attacks, and if you time them correctly you can parry attacks that stagger the enemy like this, giving you enough time to do this super cool combo. Let's see it again. 1, 2, 3. Nice. And we will also learning how to create this melee stance that you can switch to mage stance to shoot projectiles, and you go to unarmed stance and then switch back to melee. Now, I usually focus on the enemy in this series, but in this part I decided to focus on the player. Before moving on to the boss fight, we need the player to be able to actually fight. And it's also super cool just to have the player be able to do these cool melee attacks. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is add a melee stance to our player. So right now we have this default or unarmed stance, and when I press right click I enter the mage stance, where I can shoot the projectile. So we want to add another stance for holding the melee sword or shield. So let's do that. Open up our player folder, our player, and if you recall we have here where we enter magic stance, enter default stance, and we switch between them by pressing right click. So, and we also have this enum, player stance. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to add another value here called melee. So we have default, magic, and melee. And actually default I'm going to rename this to unarmed. So now we have unarmed, magic, and melee. Great. So back here in my player, let's also rename this unarmed stance, and let's just name this magic stance. I don't need enter. Okay, so now we want to have a new stance here. So let me just make some room. All right. So now let's add a new custom event and call this the melee stance. So it's going to start by setting the stance enum value to melee. And I'm going to use the character movement the same as the magic stance. So I'm going to allow strafing. To do that, I'm going to set use controller desired rotation and disable orient rotation to movement. So same as we have them here, just copy all of this and copy also the move speed and paste it right here. And the move speed will be a bit different. So I know for our strafe we have a pretty slow move speed. So I'm going to promote this to a variable and call it the melee walk speed. And I think this value was pretty low, but we're going to make the strafe faster, or at least the running with the sword faster in a bit. For now, I'm going to set this at 150. And then we want to actually spawn the sword. So let me pull off of here and do spawn actor from class. We already have our sword weapon. The transform I'm going to leave empty. So to leave it empty, you have to split so that it has default values, or pull off of it and say make transform. These are the only ways to leave it empty, because just not doing anything and compile, it will complain that this has to have a value. So I'm going to split it so it stops complaining. And then I'm going to attach actor to component. And I'm going to attach it to the mesh. And since we're using the same mesh as the enemy, we do have a socket already for it. Let me open it to see what it was called. Search for sword. Yeah, hand R sword sockets. So I'm going to go here and put this as my socket name. And I'm going to have them all snap to target. So they take the location, rotation, and scale of the socket itself. All right, so now this looks like a pretty basic melee stance. Now you need a way to switch between it. So right now we use right click. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have the number key, so 1, 2, and 3, switch between them. So I'm going to delete this. And actually I'm going to create a new function over here. And I'm going to call it change stance. And it takes as input the new stance that I want to change to. And this is of type ePlayer stance. Now the first thing is I'm going to take the existing stance. So get stance, and I'm going to promote it to a local variable. Local means it's only stored inside this function. And I'm going to call it old stance, and you'll see why I'm doing this in a second. So I'm storing the existing stance, and then immediately after I'm going to switch to the unarmed stance. Because the unarmed stance resets the socket offset, resets the aim timeline, removes the crosshair. So it just resets anything that was done by any other stance. So I think this is good to have. So I'm going to switch to the unarmed stance, and then I'm going to pull off of the new stance and say switch. So now I have all the different cases. So if I'm trying to switch to magic stance, all I have to do is call magic stance. And if I'm trying to switch to melee stance, I call melee stance. If I'm trying to switch to unarmed, I don't have to do anything because I already switched to unarmed before doing this. But what about this old stance? Why did I add it? Because if I'm already in melee stance, I shouldn't switch to melee stance. I should actually undo it. So I should switch to unarmed. Or I already switched to unarmed, so maybe I should just not do anything here. So I'm going to add a branch before each of these. Let me move that a bit. So I'm going to add a branch here and a branch. Well, check if the value of the old stance, so this local variable that I created, is not equal enum to magic. So if this value is not equal to magic, then switch to magic. Otherwise, don't do anything. Don't do anything means stay in the unarmed. And the same for the melee. Let me copy this. If this value is not equal to melee, add a branch, then switch to melee. But if it is melee, then don't do anything. All right, and that's pretty much our change stance function. Now let's call it. Just let me close this up. All right, so let me call it somewhere here, maybe. On keyboard, press 0, let's say. So 0, switch stance. By the way, I'm only doing this, it's called change stance. I'm only using the keyboard events because I don't want to create new input using the enhanced input system. But if you are creating an actual game, not for testing, don't use it like this. Create an actual enhanced input. So 0 switches to unarmed. 1 switches to melee. Let's do it like that. And 2 switches to magic. All right. Let's test it out. So now if I press 1, I'm holding the sword. So I'm switched. I didn't change the animations yet, and we're going to fix that. And if I press 1 again, I go back to the unarmed, but I still have the sword in my hand. And if I switch 2, now I'm in mage and I still have the sword in my hand. So we want to actually remove the sword when we switch to the unarmed state. So what I can do is move this a bit here. In the unarmed state at the very end, let me promote this to a variable. This is the sword that we're spawning. I'm going to call it equipped weapon. And I'm going to change the type to be the weapon base, so that this can be any weapon, not just a sword. And plug this here. And then at the very end of the unarmed event, I'm going to right click this equipped weapon, convert to a validated get. So this is the weapon that we just created. If it is valid, destroy it. All right, and here we call this change stance. A little bit closer. All right, now let's see. Spawn the sword, press it again, sword is gone. Press it again, I have the sword. Switch to mage, sword is gone. Perfect. Okay. Now let's fix our animation issue. So let's open up our animation blueprint player. And let's see how we can switch stance. So in our locomotion, double click this. In our walk run, we have this blend by bool that checks if the stance is equal to magic, use the magic locomotion. If it's false, use the unarmed. So we're gonna remove this and we're gonna use a new blend. You can do something called blend by enum. So we can do blend by e player stance. So this will give you all the values in the enum, but you have to right click and add them yourself. So you can add the unarmed, add the magic, add the melee. And then you can say what happens on melee, unarmed, and magic. So this is our magic one. This is our unarmed one, and also our default one. So let's do it for both default and unarmed. And now we need our melee one. And luckily we already have a blend space that we used for the melee enemy. It was called strafe sword, yeah. And direction and ground speed we already have. So plug direction, plug ground speed, and plug this to melee. All right. Oh, I forgot to put this one, very important. All right, compile and save, and now let's see. Nope, still not working. Let's see why not. So over here, we switch to the melee stance, and this should update. Oh, we forgot to plug in the value of the enum. This should be stance, of course. That would do it. And now let's try again. So yes, here we go. But in the idle state, it's not doing anything. So let's change the idle state as well. Yeah, and let's quickly go back to the idle state. Actually, let me copy the same blend space here, this one, and go to our idle state. Delete this, plug this one. Default is this one. Copy it again. Also the unarmed. Magic is this one. And melee, what's the sword idle called? Sword idle. Great. And just plug it in here. And now we have our idle state as well. Let me try again. Yep, here we go, idling. One thing that's annoying though is that the player is very slow in this state. Can't go faster than this. So I'm gonna fix that. And luckily, before I started recording, I already downloaded some animations for the run with sword. So I have a run forward, run back, and run left and right with the sword. So I'm going to just edit our blend space. So this blend space that we use here for the sword strafe. Right now, the maximum speed of this blend space is, if you look at the vertical, sorry, which one is it? Yeah, the vertical axis, the maximum speed is 100. So player can't go faster than this. I'm going to increase this to 430 because this is the value I tested with my animation. And I'm going to look at my sword shield run animations and put these values at 430. So this is the run back. So it should be here. Oh, I need to turn off this sampling because it's going to change my values. All right, so run back at 430 over here and over here. On these corners, because this is when the direction is -180 to 180, that means you're going backwards. Here, run forward when the direction is 0. And this one is run left when the direction is -90, and run right when the direction is 90. All right. That should do it. Now let's quickly change our melee walk speed to be 430, this new value that we added. And now let's see. Yes, much better. I can go in all directions and I can go pretty fast. Let's actually make this small detour. Let's make this change to our ABP Mani as well. Because right now, in our locomotion state, what we do is that if we're not focusing the target, we switch to the normal walk montage. This is because we couldn't run in this sword strafe animation, but now we can. So let me just delete this, and then we don't need to switch back to anything if we're not focusing the targets, because we can still not focus the target and be in the sword strafe. That's fine. All right. Very nice. Next thing we want to do is create the sword attack functionality. So it's going to be similar to the where is it? Magic spell attack here. So let's create it next to it. Move this up here. Move the magic spell up as well, and let's create it somewhere here. Custom event. We're going to call this melee attack. So just like the magic spell, we check our stance, we do once, and oh, actually here we should be setting attacking as well. So we should set attacking to true. Don't know why I forgot about that. But anyway, it's going to be very similar. So let's check first, make sure that we are in the right stance when we do this. So is our stance equal to melee? That's the only case where you can do a melee attack. If true, we're going to do a do once, so you can't keep spamming it. And we're going to create a new custom event, call it reset melee attack. This is when we'll call when the attack is over to be able to undo this or reset this do once. And we set attacking to true. And then we play the montage. So let's play montage in our skeletal mesh component. And I think it's called slash. Yep, this montage here. Boom. And it has the slash notify. So we need to do something on this slash notify. So pull off of name, say switch on name, make sure to plug this in the notify begin, remove the default pin and add a pin called slash. And here on slash, we can pull off of our BPC attacks because we have our attack helpers there, and we have a sphere trace on damage. It's called, let's do radius 20, length 200, and damage info, pull off of it and say make. And let's say it's melee damage, causes a hit reaction, and does a damage of, I don't know, 20. Can be blocked, can be parried, blah, blah, blah. Actually, we're going to be using very soon in this tutorial, we're going to be using the damage response, we're going to be using the can be blocked, the can be parried, and the should force interrupt. We're going to be using all of these. So we're really going to use the damage system to its fullest in this one. Alright, so on complete and on interrupt, we should call reset melee attack on complete and on interrupt, and switch attacking back to false because we are no longer attacking. Alright, now this will just play one sword swing, but we're going to expand on that. Let's look at it now. Oh, we need to call it. So let me just name this melee attack. And right now we have just left mouse button calls this shoot thing. We're going to change it a bit to handle both cases. All right, so we're going to call this, instead of shoot, just attack. And it depends on the stance. So we're going to get stance. We're going to switch on the stance. And if we are unarmed, don't do anything. If you're in the magic, then do the shoot magic spell. And if you're in melee, do the melee attack. Compile and save, and let's see. All right, now I'm clicking, nothing's happening. If I am holding a sword, nice. I can still move while holding the sword because we didn't disable movement. But also, instead of disabling movement, we can simply go to our animations, look for our sword slash, and say, boom, enable root motion. And enabling root motion will also disable movement. Yeah, so now I can't move. And you'll see the camera moves slightly because, yeah, the actual character is moving to the front a bit with root motion. All right. Now, you'll notice also one thing. If I have root motion enabled and I'm attacking, but I switch the camera, the player doesn't move until the attack is over. See that? If you want the camera movement to also move the player during the attack, that's very simple. There's only one checkbox you have to do in the character movement. Search for rotation and click on allow physics rotation during animation. So this one will allow you to do this. Yeah. See, now even though root motion is enabled, I can rotate the character while a root motion attack or animation is playing. This is really nice because if you are in mid-attack and your enemy moves, you want to still be able to react to it. Now before we add the super cool combo attack, I want to first give our player a shield so that the combo looks even cooler. So to do that, luckily I already have a shield mesh that I created here. I put it in the weapons, meshes, shields, and it looks like this. So it matches our super cool golden sword aesthetic. Very basic mesh, really. And I'm going to create a weapon out of it. So in our weapons folder, right click off the weapon base, create child. I'm going to call this BP weapon shield. And in the mesh, I'm just going to select my shield mesh. I don't think I'm going to do anything else to it. That should be enough. All right. And now we want to actually add our shield. So somewhere here, do we have a socket for the shield? Let's see. Shield, we do not. So let's actually create that one first. I'm gonna do this real quick. So go over here, use animation, use the block animation, and then add it somewhere here in our arm. Right click, oops, add socket, and we're gonna call this the arm L shield socket. And right click, add a preview asset to see what it looks like. Shield, rotate it a bit, move it to the front here. Yep. Yeah, that looks good. And now we have our socket. So I'm going to copy this name, go back here, and move this a bit. Now let's spawn another actor from class. This is in our melee stance, by the way. After we spawn the swords, then we spawn the shields. And we attach actor to component, same that we do here, to our mesh, but this time the socket name is different. Arm L shield sockets. I think that's what we called it. All right, now let's see what this looks like. Oh, I have errors. What are my errors? Oh, here, split this. And let's see. I don't have a shield. Where's Equipped components can't be attached to other component. Ooh, I am attaching the wrong thing, aren't I? Ooh, yes I am. Need to attach this one. All right, so now let's see. And my shield is in a very awkward place. Did I get the socket name wrong? I think I got the socket name wrong. Arm L shield socket. Let me copy it this time. Yeah, I spelled shield incorrectly. Yeah, I'm not sure in which place, but this is the spelling I have now. And boom. Yes, now we have a shield. Looks really cool. All right. Now, one thing, again here, I didn't create a variable. So when I switch back to unarmed, I still have the shield. Or I switch to mage, I still have the shield. So I actually, over here, I want to destroy any equipped weapon, and not just this equipped weapon. So I'm going to change this to be an array of equipped weapons, because you can have multiple weapons equipped now. So over here in the equipped weapon, I'm going to rename this to equipped weapons. And I'm going to change this to be an array by going over here and selecting array. And yes, change variable type. This one's going to complain because you can't assign a single value to an array anymore. But I'm going to be spawning weapons differently. So I'm going to actually create a new function. I'm going to also remove this. I'm going to create a new function that spawns a weapon and another function that destroys all of them. So let's do that. Let's have a new function here, call it equip weapon, and it takes as input a weapon, and this is going to be of type weapon base. And what it's going to do is that no, actually not going to be of type weapon base, it's going to be of type weapon base class reference, so that I can actually spawn an actor from class and use this class and split the spawn. And then over here, I'm going to get my equipped weapons array, and I'm going to say add unique. So I'm going to add to this array this newly equipped weapon. And then I'm going to proceed with the, what was it called? Yeah, this one, the attach actor to components here. Didn't I copy? Copy, paste, yeah. And this is going to be my actor. And the socket name, I'm going to have this as a variable as well. So plug it in here, socket name. And at the end, I'm going to do a return node. And let's just return the weapon and call this weapon ref. All right. Now I need another function called unequip all weapons. And all it does is it gets our equipped weapons array, does a for each loop, so loops over all of them, and it destroys the weapon. And at the end, when it's completed, it should empty the array. So get the array and call clear. This is what empties the array. All right, so now here, instead of doing this, I'm going to actually, let's move that, delete this. Now I'm just going to call equip weapon. I'm going to call it, I want the sword, and this is our socket name. Now we can delete this. And then I'm going to call it again, equip weapon. And this one, I want a shield. And this is our socket name. Now I can delete this. All right. Does this have a default value, by the way? Nope. Okay, no, that's good. Great, so now I am equipping both weapons, and in the end here, I just want to call unequip all weapons. Yeah, this one. All right, now it's nice and short. Great. Let's see what it looks like. And nice. Everything is being equipped and unequipped. Now, of course, you can have animations for equipping and unequipping. I am not right now, but yeah, this looks pretty good. Now let's add our combo attack, because right now we only have this one sword slash attack. So in our melee attack, well, to save us all time, I actually created this combo montage, but I'm gonna explain it still. So it's one montage that has all of the attacks in it. So there are a lot of different ways you can do combos. I prefer this one, where all of the combo attacks are in the same montage. And then you have notify windows that tell you when you can complete a montage or when to end it. So let me explain. If I press the attack button once, then all of this part plays. A sword swing, this is just a sound. And then here, a notify window plays. And you can add these by right click, add notify state, montage notify window. And what a notify window is, the difference between a notify window and a regular notify is that a window has a start and has an end. A regular notify just has a start. So in this window, I say this is when the player can press another click to continue the montage. So to continue to the second attack. But if the player doesn't click during this window, then stop the montage. So only play the first slash. And the same for the second one. Right here, this is when the second montage window starts. If the player clicks anytime during this window, then continue the montage. Otherwise, stop it. And here we just have this cool lightning effect and ground smash sound. And we also call AoE slash, which is the thing that does AoE damage, or just a montage that we name that we use for AoE damage. Now let's see how we can use all of this. Now I created the montage, but we're going to use it together. So back in my player here, I'm going to switch to this sword combo montage. And of course, as always, you can download the source code, the assets from my Patreon for free if you want to get the montage itself and all of the animations that I'm using. But they're mainly from Mixamo and retargeted to the Unreal mannequin and with a root bone. Now, the root bone is very important here because I will be using root motion for these animations. All right, so right now, if I don't change anything and I just press play, I'm going to click once and the entire sequence plays. So I just clicked once, see, my hands aren't doing anything, and the entire sequence is playing. So now how do we get these notify windows to play a role? I'm gonna need some space, so let's move these a bit. So as I told you, notify windows have a start and an end. So what I'm gonna do is, when the window is starting, I'm going to create a variable. So let's create a new variable here, call it is within resume combo window. And this is going to be of type Boolean, and make sure it's not an array, it's single. So I'm going to add a new notify here. First, let's handle the AoE slash case. So, because we have at the very end the explosion. So this is going to be similar to this. So on AoE slash, we get our BPC attacks as well. And we call AoE damage. Plug it here. The attack target, what was it? AoE damage, right? Yeah, and what do we do with the attack target again? We make sure we're only damaging the attack target. Interesting. I actually don't want to only damage the attack target. I want to damage anyone. But okay, for now, let's pass in the attack target as... No, actually, I'm going to remove this. I don't want to damage the attack target only. So I'm going to remove this check. And we're going to... Because this is AoE damage shouldn't damage a single target. It should damage anyone. So I'm going to remove this check. I'm going to also remove attack target from here. And what I'm gonna do is make sure I'm only damaging my team members. So I'm going to get my, what was it? AoE damage actor. Yeah, so I'm gonna get this actor's team number. And I'm gonna get my owner's team number. Come on. Get owner, get team number. And only if these values are not equal, if these values are not, let me just clean it up. If these values are not equal, then I damage. So we're not damaging only the target, but we're damaging any non-team member. All right, small detour, refresh node. All right, refresh node. Great, now we don't need attack target anymore. So we can delete this. Excellent, okay. Now back in my player, I don't need attack target, so let's do a radius of, I don't know, 200, no, it's 299, 200, and damage, let's make a explosion damage of 20 as well, or I don't know, 30 maybe. Make it do more damage, so this is the last attack in the combo. All right, so now we need to add another one. So this one is called, what did we call it? Resume combo window. I'm gonna copy it to make sure no typos. Resume combo window. And as I mentioned, what resume combo window will do is just call, set this is within combo window Boolean value to true. And then we have this notify end. So I can pull off of this and say switch again. And I can call it on notify end this time. Let's make ourselves some room. All right. All right. So now here on notify end, I'm also going to add a pin for resume combo window. So when resume combo window is over, then is within combo window should be false. All right. And also when the attack is over, is within combo window should be false as well. All right. That looks better. Okay, so now all we did is set the value is within combo window, but we didn't change anything. Now I also click once and everything still happens. So now what we want is to check if is within combo window ended and we didn't trigger another click, then end the montage and stopped playing the montage. So how do we do that? So over here, when the attack begins, say somewhere around here, I'm going to do a branch. I'm going to check if I am within a combo window, or actually, let's say if I'm not within a combo window, So if you're not within a combo window, that means you're doing the first combo attack, then do things normally. But if you are, what I want to do is create another Boolean variable, call it can resume combo, and I'm going to set this value to true here. So if I am within the combo window and I pressed melee attack, then call can resume combo. And over here, when the combo ends, I'm going to check, am I within, or sorry, can I resume the combo? If yes, then keep resuming the combo and don't do anything. If false, I'm going to stop playing the montage. So call stop anim montage, and select the combo montage. All right, so now if I play, if I press 1, combo ends, right? And I can't press 1 again, so I can't continue the montage. And the reason is because of this do once. I need to actually reset this do once when the resume window starts. So over here, I need to call reset melee attack when I enter the resume window. So now if I do it, yeah, great, but I actually forgot one more thing. So we set can resume combo to true, but we never set it to false again. So it has to be set to false as soon as we enter the resume window as well. So as soon as we enter here, we set can resume combo to false. Yeah, perfect. Now I can also just do once, and I can also just do 2 of them. So if I don't click again, the montage stops. And if I click all 3, the entire montage plays. Perfect. So just a quick recap. We start the melee attack. We do a do once so that we can't spam it. And we check if we are not within combo window. That means it's our first combo attack. So just play the full combo montage. And then on slash, do a slash. On AoE slash, do an AoE slash. And on resume combo window, which is this window here, we're going to set a variable to true, which is called is within resume window. And as soon as we end, or outside, we set this variable to false. So as soon as we enter, we set it to true. And we say can resume combo is false because we're waiting for a click. Only a click can trigger this can resume combo. And then we reset the melee attack to allow you to be able to click again. And if you do click, so as soon as we enter the resume combo window, we set this value to false again because we're outside the window now, because this is on notify end. So when this is called on notify end, we check can we resume the combo. If we can't, so this is false. If we can't, then stop the montage. And if we can, don't do anything, because not doing anything resumes the combo anyway. Now it's time to add our blocking functionality. And after we add the block, we're going to test the block and the attack with the melee enemy. So do an actual nice little combat fight. So let's add the block somewhere here. So for the block, I actually already have a montage as well. And this is a pretty simple one. We have this shield block. And it's a montage and not an animation state because I want it to play for a duration and then after a while it stops. So you can't keep holding the block forever. And similar to the combo, we have this window here. That's the parry window. So if I block, if I get attacked during this window, it will be considered a parry. And we're going to see how we're going to do parries now. It's going to be really cool. Now you can decrease this window if you want it to be a shorter parry time and so on. And you can also not do montage notifies at all and do it in the blueprint if you want the parry window to be controlled by a stat, for example. So you upgrade it to have longer parry window because this one will be static. And we also have this block react. So when you actually block something successfully, you do this little animation. All right, so let's see how we're going to use that. So let's create a custom event and call it start block. And it does a few things here. First thing is that it sets the, oh, sorry, actually, one thing I forgot to mention is I have a montage notify here called block. And the reason I have a notify as well is because when the animation starts, you're still not really blocking, you're just holding the shield. And only after a while, I want the block to happen so that if you hold the shield too late, it doesn't count as a block. So you have to reach this part of the animation to count as actually blocking, and we'll see how we're going to do that. So start block, let's just say it plays the montage called shield block, place it in the mesh component, and we do a switch here. So switch on notify begin. We're gonna check the block. And what we're gonna do is to enable blocking is using our damage system. We just pull off of our BPC damage system and say is blocking, oh, not get, sorry, set is blocking to true. This is what allows us to block. That's the same we use for the enemy as well. When we finish, we just want to call set block to false. So over here on complete and on interrupt, say is blocking is false. So that's the block in the most basic sense. We're gonna modify this a bit. Oh, and we also want a do once here, so you can't spam it as well. So do a do once. Oh, and we also want a check that we are in the correct stance. So if get stance is equal to melee, then and only then enter the block. And once you enter the block, you reset. And we also want a custom event here called reset block. And we're going to call it here as well, reset block. All right. Now I'm going to have the right mouse button do the block. So let's just comment this as block. And this is attack input. So let's have another one here, right mouse button. When it's pressed, it does start block. Oh, we actually want a way to end the block when we release it as well. So I am going to move these to an event, call it custom event, call it end block. And this is what happens when block ends. And actually, oh, I should plug this here. And on complete and on interrupted, I'm going to call, no, sorry, not reset block now. We want to call end block. All right. And another thing is that we want end block to stop playing, well, interrupt this montage if it is playing. So I can say is montage, no, actually I need to get my mesh and get anim instance. Yeah, so get anim instance on your mesh and check is playing or montage is playing. Search for the block. So if you are playing the block montage, oh, actually I don't need to do that at all. I just need to call stop montage and give it the block montage. And then if this is not, if it's not playing the block montage, it won't stop anything. All right. And now when we release this button, just call end block. Great. And this is the block input. Input has only one U. All right. And I forgot something else, didn't I? Yes, I did. I forgot to check if I am in the correct stance. So I need both of these as well. So only in melee can you do this. Yep. All right, now it looks correct. Let's test it out. Have my sword and block. And if I'm moving while I'm blocking, I can still move because I have it played in the upper upper body slot. So not in the lower, not in the full body, just the upper body. So that's why I can move and block at the same time. And if I release my mouse button, it interrupts and stops my blocking. Yeah, perfect. Now, before we add parry, let's let's test it out. Let's see what it looks like with an enemy. So I am going to put an enemy here, get my melee enemy, and let's start fighting. Oh, show me what you got. And did I block? I didn't. Oh, actually, one very important thing we forgot is, do we actually set these attacks as blockable by the enemy? So the enemy here has a ground smash attack that we say can't be blocked and can't be parried. Short range attack, this one, let's say it can be blocked and can be parried. And long range attack, also the same, can be blocked, can be parried. Spinning attack, let's say it can only be blocked, but you can't parry the spin attack. Perfect. Now let's test it out again. All right, come at me. Okay, so I blocked. Okay, let me show you again. I didn't take damage, but no animation played, right? So let's show you again. I'm blocking. I didn't take damage, but nothing happened. That's because we didn't set the reaction, the block reaction. So how do we do that? If you recall, we have here on damage response, and this comes from the BPC damage system. So if I click on BPC damage system, I also have an event for on blocked. So I'm going to go here and click on this plus icon, and let me put it next to the block here. All right, and there's something wrong here. This should also give me the damage causer. Sorry, let me open up the damage system real quick. So right click, edit BPC damage system, go to my take damage function, and I want on blocked to also pass the damage causer. So go over here to on blocked, up in here, and say damage causer as well. Type actor. Now we can pass the damage causer. And this is very important for parrying, because when you parry, you also want to damage or knock back whoever is causing you damage. So I need to know the damage causer. All right, now that we fixed that, let's go back to our player. All right, so now what happens when we block successfully? We just want to play a montage. Nope, not this one. Play montage, yeah, that one, on the mesh component, and we have a, what's it called, block react. Yeah, so we have this one. Now I have two of them. I have block react, this one with root motion that moves back a bit. So I'll show you. I have this shield block react, one with root motion. Actually, this should have, this one is the no root motion, and this one is with root motion. Yeah, so why do I have two? Because, oh, actually this goes pretty far back. Because when you parry, I want to play the same animation, but without root motion. But when you block without parrying, I want to play the one with root motion, so you go back a bit. So there's visual input difference between parrying and blocking. And now if you have a parry montage, a different animation completely, that's also fine. But let's see how we're going to use that. So now I play the normal animation, and yeah, for now it's fine. Let me show you what this looks like for now. So I'm gonna block. There we go. Now that looks like a block, right? Nice, and I can block these. Okay, I blocked some, I got hit by some. Let's try it again. And jump, block, very nice. And I can also damage, and he can also block me. So now we're having a all right. Let's see if I can kill him. Oh, nice, I killed him. Okay. So one thing I noticed is that he blocked my explosion attack, which I definitely don't intend it to be blockable. So this one, this explosion, let's say it can't be blocked, can be parried, and should force interrupt. So even if you're doing a non-interruptible attack, this explosion should interrupt you. So let me show you what it's going to look like. So now, see, I interrupted him even though he was doing a non-interruptible attack. Great. So block is working very nice, looks really cool. Now let's see how to do the parry functionality. So same as we used our notify windows, we're going to use it again here in the block. So if you recall, we have a notify called Parry window here. And I'm going to create also a new variable called is within Parry window, as you might expect. And when it begins, so open up here on notify start, look for Parry window. And all we're going to do is set this Parry window to true. And we're going to do another switch. I could just copy this one and do it on notify end, but let's remove the block. So on notify end, we just set Parry window to false. Great. Let me move this. And also here, we also want to set Parry window to, and it's not going to matter, Parry window should always be false. But yeah, if you interrupted within a Parry window, we have to make sure that we call it to false on end. Yeah. All right. So this one is block success and parry. So now we want to handle the parry here, because if you remember, there are attacks that can be parried, some that can't. So after you play the montage, we want to ask ourselves, can we parry? So we do a branch and check if we are within the parry window and the attack can be parried. Do this branch here. Let me move this check a bit further back because we're going to use it again here. Sorry, just cleaning this up. All right, so if the attack can be parried and you are within the parry window, then let's just call a function called parry that we're going to create here. So custom event, let's call it parry attack, and we need to know who we're parrying. So we need to know the attack target, which is an actor. And if you recall, I told you I have two animations that I'm playing depending on whether I can parry or not. So the one with root motion and the one without. So I'm going to also do a select here. Off of this same variable. So if can parry is true, then use the no root motion shield block. And if I can't parry, then use the regular shield block. All right. Great, and then here we just call parry. And if you can't parry, just don't do anything. And let's also pass the damage causer as our attack target here. All right, so now let's actually create the parry. Now what I want the parry to do is first to do damage. So I'm going to call take damage, the one with message next to it, on this attack target. And I'm going to do, well, damage causer self. And I'm going to do a little bit of damage here. So let's say 5, yeah, just a little damage, and do melee. And here, usually you want parries to stagger the enemy. So we have this damage response. So I'm going to use stagger. And it can't be blocked and can't be parried. But it shouldn't force interrupt. But stagger is what we are going to add later on. I'm going to show you how when you parry an enemy, they fall back a bit or they get staggered, basically. But for now, what I also want to happen is I want the camera to zoom in, to slow motion to happen, and then zoom out. You know, this is usually what you see in games, this parry effect. So let's see how we can do that. First what I'm going to do is I am going to, we have this as a reminder. When we switch to the magic state, we zoom in the camera, right? So we have this aim camera that, that zooms in. And you can see it over here. Yeah, this aim timeline. So I'm going to reuse this aim timeline for our parry as well. So here I'm just going to say aim timeline. Sorry, get aim timeline here. And I'm going to say play from start. So we play the aim timeline. Well, actually we do damage to the guy first. Then we play the timeline. And then we slow down time. So let's do a delay first of 0.2 seconds, sure. And then set global time dilation to 0.2 as well. So this is our slow motion. And let's do it for 0.1 seconds. And after that, we want to set global time dilation back to 1. And revert the aim camera again. So get our aim timeline and say reverse. Yep. That should be it. Let's see if it works. I want to do a good parry. Boom. Very nice. So let me show you again if I'm not within the parry window. So right now I'm just blocking. That actually something's wrong. I definitely wasn't within the parry window. Oh, this one we forgot to plug in the notify. That is very important. Okay. And now it should work. So not within the parry window. Something is up. Should have played this montage. Oh, I played the wrong montage. I apologize. This shouldn't be shield block. It should be shield block react. Shield block reacts. Yeah, that's the right montage. I was playing the regular block montage. That's why I didn't notice the difference. Okay, now. Yes, and you see I got pushed back. But if I parry in the right time, I don't get pushed back. Look again. Boom. No pushback. So then I'm in position to attack. Boom. Can't block this one, so I got attacked. Didn't parry in a good enough time, and here this one can't be parried. It can be blocked, but it can't be parried. Now there's something really interesting I want to show you if I have two enemies attacking me. So if I have two enemies attacking me, and I change my tokens to be 2, so I can get attacked by 2 enemies at the same time, I can't block them both at the same time. Let me show you. So if I try to do this, I want them both to attack me. Come on. Yeah. See, I got hit, even though the camera did the zoom and the slow motion. So I mean, that means I parried the first one, but I got hit by the second one. Let me show you again. See, I still got hit. I took damage. And that is because as soon as you block successfully, let me show you here. As soon as you block successfully, you play another montage. And what happens when you play a montage? It interrupts the first montage. And what happens when this montage is interrupted? We call end block. And end block, of course, disables blocking. So what we want is to not end block if what interrupted us was a successful block. So while you're successfully blocking, I want you to remain blocking. So I'm going to remove this interrupt here. And I'm going to add a Boolean value here. So let's add a... Sorry, let's move this here. I'm going to add a new variable and call it is reacting to block. So if you are reacting to block, we set this value to true. And when you're done reacting to block, we call end block. All right, so this montage is what calls end block anymore, But if we're interrupted here, we want to check. There's a branch. Are we interrupted because we are reacting to block? If true, don't do anything, because then you're playing this montage and end block will be called anyway here. But if false, then we want to call end block. That means you're interrupted by something else other than a successful block. And in the end block as well, we want to call is reacting, set is reacting to block as false. Now I can block twice, and let's see. Jump at me. Perfect. Now the camera did a little bit of a funky movement there, but I blocked them both. See again? Very nice. And I think we can fix this funky camera movement by, instead of saying play from start, we just say play. So that means it's going to play from where it currently is instead of from the start. Let me show you. So jump at me. Perfect. See, I blocked both of them and no funky camera movement. Nice. And that one I can't block. Nice. Very cool. Now, the final thing, as promised, I'm going to show you how to stagger an enemy when you parry them. So right now, when I parry the enemy, nothing happens, right? Because they're playing a montage and they can't be interrupted. So I want two things to happen. When I successfully parry, I want should force interrupt to be true. So that means the parry will interrupt whatever montage are currently playing. That's the first one. And let's see how that one's going to look. Now let's me parry. Yeah, see, it looks like they took damage now, but I want them not just to play the hit reaction, I want them to play a stagger animation. And luckily I have a stagger animation and montage right here. And it just looks like this. The enemy just falls backwards a bit. And I also have root motion enabled to make them actually move back. Now this animation I edited a bit because it wasn't made for a melee enemy, but I made some changes to it. But now it looks like this. So let's go to our base enemy. So to our BP enemy base and see where we handle hit reactions. We handle hit reaction somewhere here. Yeah. And we don't do anything with this damage response, right? We always play this hit reaction montage regardless of what the damage response is. Now I'm going to change that a bit. So next to the hit reaction montage, I am going to create another one. So another variable, because, you know, hit reaction montage can be different per enemy type. So that's why it's a variable here. So I'm going to create a new variable, call it the stagger montage. And I'm going to do a select here on this montage to play. And the select is going to depend on the damage response. All right, let's move this a bit. Now, for simplicity, I'm going to have all of them play the hit reaction. So where's my hit reaction montage? Yeah. So I'm going to have all of them play the hit reaction for now. Because we didn't set the damage response on all of the attacks. So it might not work for all cases. But we have the stagger now. So I'm going to get the stagger montage and play it here. But if the stagger montage is not valid, I want to still play the hit reaction montage. So if an enemy doesn't have a stagger montage. So first I'm going to check if is valid, do the function one. And this is going to get, this is going to get a bit loopy. But then I'm inside this select, I'm going to have another select. So I do a select here. And off of this value. So if stagger montage is true, it's valid, use stagger. If not, use hit reaction. So it's a select within a select. I hope this makes sense. Now I'm going to go to my melee enemy. And on the class defaults, I'm going to search for stagger. And I'm going to give him this stagger montage. And I can also do the same for the ranged because they're both the same skeleton. So I can search for stagger for the range. and give him this stagger. Now I can't do that for the mage enemy because it uses a different skeleton, but you can of course add this stagger montage to your melee, get a stagger animation for your mage as well. But let's see how this one looks like now. Come at me, bros. Boom, parry, parry, and they got staggered. Let me show you with just one enemy so it's a bit more obvious. Alright, and very nice. You see how he falls back. Nice. And now I can block multiple times. Can't block that. See if I can kill him. Boom. Now, one thing I noticed as well, I'm going to fix it really quick, is that once the enemy dies, they continue the attack that they were doing. And this is because in our base enemy here, on death, we don't stop the currently playing montage. So first thing I'm going to do on die here is just say stop montage, stop montage. And if I don't pass in an anim montage, it just stops whatever montage is playing. And that's really all you need to fix that bug. Alright, let's try it again. Attack me. Parry. Boom, boom, boom. Come on, hit me. Uh-oh, I need to run away from that. Oh no. Okay. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. And boom. He's dead. Very nice. As always, thank you all for watching, and the next tutorial is going to be the boss fight, finally. I needed to add the melee attacks to the player so that the boss can actually interact with the player, because we only had one mage attack. So now I'm planning the boss fight, and it will be the next tutorial, hopefully. And if you want to download the project files so far to follow along, if you haven't followed from the beginning, you can get them all, including the damage system, the projectile system, and every tutorial that I made before on my Patreon for free, link down in the description. And I will see you in the next one.